Us had heard of yoghurt before the 1950s. 60 years on, we're gobbling up enough yoghurt a year to fill 13 Olympic pools. And our kids eat their way through enough dairy food to fill the school swimming pool 60 times over. So what are we eating? The basic recipe for yoghurt is the simplest thing you could possibly imagine. Milk and a starter culture of bacteria. And that's it. The bacteria in the starter gobble up the lactose in milk, turning it into sour-tasting lactic acid. The acid curdles the milk, which thickens the yoghurt. Everything that's good about milk is good about yoghurt. It's a good source of protein, calcium, some vitamins and minerals. But let's face it, thick, sour milk was never going to catch on in a big way. To make yoghurt edible for most of us, it takes 2 more ingredients. Sugar to counter the sourness of the acid, and fruit for flavour. Now you have the basis for a multi-billion-dollar global industry. But who can make sense of the dozens of varieties competing for space in the supermarket chiller? It's over to our dietitians.
There's 3 basic kinds of yoghurt. There's the unsweetened yoghurts and your light yoghurts for people who are trying to watch their weight. And then there's your more indulgent, high-fat yoghurts. They're certainly not everyday choices. And then there's your average kind of low-fat, fruit-flavoured yoghurts for active children and active adults.
Low-fat yoghurts have often got added sugar to improve the flavour. So in terms of total calories, there may well be no benefit.
The amount of sugar varies a lot, but it can be as high as 25 grams in a standard serving. That's about 6 teaspoons. So is it too much?
One of the great difficulties about sugar is that there isn't really good hard science that says it's okay to have 10% of your calories from sugar.
New Zealand, like many countries, doesn't have official guidelines on how much sugar is okay. The American Heart Association suggests women have no more than 6 teaspoons of added sugar a day, 9 for men.
I don't think anybody disputes the fact that it's a good idea to restrict one's intake of sugar.
Yoghurt can also contribute to obesity in another way, fat. And because it's dairy, about half of that is saturated fat, the kind that raises bad cholesterol.
I'm a great advocate of reduced fat dairy products because you get all the benefits of what dairy has to offer and you get the reduced saturated fat.
The 3 big manufacturers all make low-fat yoghurt as their standard product. Just 1 or 2% total fat and less than a gram of saturated fat. But what about the new kids on the block, those indulgent treats? Fat and sugar adds up to more calories.
As the total calorie content of some yogurts is increasing, we need to reduce our portion size slightly.
The thing is, the opposite is happening. We're seeing more and more full cream, sugary yogurts in large tubs.
You've got your little ones, which are clearly individual, your bigger ones, which are family size, which you know are going to last you a couple of days. But the medium-sized ones, you're not quite sure whether to have the whole lot or just half of it. So people might be getting confused there.
The prime example of this is the new man yogurts in mammoth sizes. But is that turning men into mammoth eaters? Now, blokes are not traditionally known for their love of yoghurt.
We do buy yoghurt, but not for myself, but for the kids.
Would you look for a light yoghurt or a full creamy yoghurt?
Go watching for my figure, so get the light one.
The light one?
Yes.
Okay, well, it's clearly working. You look
Thank you.
really hot right now.
You too.
Just
Men
as long
are
as
a
it's
big,
thick and
untapped
chunky
market, and they're
built
being
to tame a
wooed
man's
big time.
hunger. Mammoth Supply Co. Real man food. Man.
We've got together 20 hard-working real men from Kalmar Construction. By lunchtime, they've worked up quite an appetite. They'll even eat yoghurt if that's all that's on offer. We're going to see if they'll eat more yoghurt out of big tubs than little ones. Right, it is lunchtime. Today is all about yoghurt. You can eat as much as you like. Go for it! First up, we give 10 blokes a dainty 100-gram serving. Every time they want more yoghurt, they have to make a conscious decision to open up another tub. How about you? How'd you get on?
Good. I think I have 4.
Is this you? Is this you?
Yep.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You think you had 4. In fact, you had
Plus a couple
7.
more.
So you obviously quite enjoyed it then?
Yeah, that was nice.
Okay.
Only had 3, just
Only
right.
3? Yeah, that's enough?
That's enough. Got 4.
4? Okay. How many yogurts have you just had?
Had 2.
How many did you have?
About 7.
About 7. Okay, so you obviously enjoyed it.
Oh, I'm not a big fan of it.
Really?
But tasting that, oh, mate.
We converted you,
Yeah,
perhaps.
exactly.
Okay, they were a lot hungrier than we'd anticipated, but will the second group eat even more? We're serving them the same yoghurt, but this time they are 400 gram servings. And they're off. Still going.
The other round, please.
Still going. Done.
So you had 2, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah, you feel full?
Yep.
You enjoyed that one?
Yeah, I love it.
We weighed all the tubs to see exactly how much yoghurt each team had put away. The dainty team averaged a surprising 420 grams, just over 4 tubs each. But it seems the bigger sized portions encouraged the second group to eat on average 20% more than the dainty team. Bucking the stereotype, our blokes liked yoghurt a lot, but that isn't necessarily good for them. 1 mammoth serving of man yoghurt contains more sugar than a can of Coke and about as many kilojoules as a Big Mac. We asked Fonterra why they market that much yoghurt as a single serving. They responded, "Mammoth has been specifically designed for men who skip breakfast, and as such, the 325 gram tub can act as a meal replacement. The serving size shows consumers exactly what they'll be getting, and with the replaceable lid, they can eat what they like and store the rest for later." After the break, is there any nutritional value left in the berries and fruit? Can yogurt help you lose weight? And could artificial sweeteners save us from obesity, only to kill us with cancer? When it comes to yogurt, great flavour and creamy texture come at a price. In the current obesity epidemic, those extra kilojoules could become killer joules. Even low-fat yogurt can have a lot of added sugar. Maybe it's time to consider a substitute. This is how you sweeten a 10-kilo batch of plain, low-fat yoghurt with an entire kilo of white sugar.
So if you don't want to add a kilo of sugar to 10 kilos of yoghurt, what can you add? Well, Mr. Fresh and Fruity has chosen to add sweetener 950 and 955. 950 is SS-sulfame K and 955 is sucralose, and we have them here. So here's the SS-sulfame K, and it's 200 times sweeter than sugar. So put that in there like that, and then we're going to add sucralose. That's 600 times sweeter than sugar. So why do you need both? The reason is because neither taste like sugar by itself, but added together, they taste very much like sugar. And the same amount of sweetening in these two together as in 1 entire kilo of sugar. Okay, so let's see what it tastes like. Awesome. Tastes just like the other one.
Although sucralose is generally regarded as safe, a few people do have concerns about acesulfame K. They claim it might be cancer-causing and that it was approved on the basis of flawed safety testing in the 1970s. European and American authorities admit the tests don't live up to today's standards, but they have nonetheless approved acesulfame as safe. If artificial sweeteners are not for you, there's even yoghurt with no fat, no sugar and no artificial sweeteners.
This is a live light. It's sweetened, claimed here with no artificial sweeteners. So what is the sweetener? And the sweetener is stuff called stevia. Stevia is from a plant. It is 300 times sweeter than sugar. Banned for a while in the USA, probably because of the sugar lobby, but now internationally approved, certainly approved for use in Australia and New Zealand. You'll see it in lots of products. Stevia is a very useful compound.
Sugar is easy to replace, but removing the fat could make for a thin, watery product if it wasn't for another group of additives. 14, 22, 40 and 42 are all types of starches used to thicken yogurts. Gelatine is a gelling agent extracted from animal bones and skins. It's halal, so Muslim consumers can enjoy yogurt too. That means animals must be killed with a cut to the throat and no pigs. We've looked looked at the three main types, but what about the ugly yoghurt duckling? Plain, unsweetened. It's long enjoyed a reputation as a bit of a health food. After all, anything that tastes this bad
I don't like it.
has to be good for us, doesn't it? No wonder it's never been popular with kids.
No, we didn't eat it as kids. I didn't like the flavour of it for a start. It tasted too much like sour milk. Only women ate that. Young women wanted to keep their figures, didn't want to get fat. So they ate yoghurt and hoped.
Not much has changed in 50 years. Plenty of young women still turn to yoghurt and hope. There have been a number of scientific studies into the effects of yoghurt and other dairy products on our ability to shed the pounds. There are a couple of ways that yoghurt might help, and number one is protein. The theory goes that protein fills us more, so we'll eat less.
But generally speaking, one has to have a fairly substantial amount of protein to make one feel full. So I would have to say I'm a little bit cynical about that possibility.
That leaves dieters' hopes riding on calcium. In this theory, calcium from dairy interferes with the body's ability to absorb or process fat. It's a highly controversial idea. And to see any effect at all, some studies suggest you may need to go on a diet and eat 5 servings of dairy a day. Come on, just a little more.
Even eaten in substantial amounts, the evidence that calcium per se facilitates weight loss is not huge.
In some studies, people lose weight, and some they gain weight. In most, there is no effect at all. Sorry guys, looks like there's just not enough evidence to keep you here any longer. Shall we set you free? So there's no need to pin your hopes on a yoghurt that tastes like it should be healthy. A low-fat, low-sugar yoghurt is a perfect everyday choice, flavoured with some yummy fruit. Fresh fruit in manufactured yoghurt would ferment and spoil the yoghurt, so what goes in is effectively a jam with preservative to stop yeast and bacterial growth. So is there any goodness left in it?
You're getting a little bit of benefit from the fruit and yoghurt. Even though it may have been boiled to death, it's still got a bit of fibre there. It's still got some nutrients left.
In most yogurts, fruit is added for flavour and a little bit of sweetness. It certainly doesn't count towards your 5+ a day.
After the break, just what are probiotics and do they live up to the hype?
I don't think we've found the elixir of life.
And what exactly is dairy food? And is there anything good in it?
Might even be passion fruit, I'm not sure.
Yoghurt is nutritious, but it isn't a health food. But could friendly probiotic cultures turn it into one?
Probiotics are living microbes that, when administered in appropriate amounts, confer a health benefit. The health benefits part is fairly open.
The most common probiotics added to yoghurt are acidophilus, bifidus and casei. But can good health be as simple as putting a few bacteria in your yoghurt? The idea goes back to a Russian Nobel Prize winner called Mechnikov.
His Nobel Prize was nothing to do with probiotics, of course, but he was of the opinion that there were bacteria in the colon that were releasing substances that were toxic.
Mechnikov thought eating friendly bacteria would keep the bad bacteria in check, and that this was the key to a long, healthy life. But Mechnikov was wrong. Most of the bacteria living in your gut are harmless or even beneficial. And probiotic bacteria don't take up residence in our gut. They're just passing through.
It is quite difficult to see how the addition of 1 or 2 of those probiotic bacteria, especially since they don't establish themselves in the colon, could make a huge difference.
Overseas, probiotics make some pretty bold claims. The probiotic drink Yoghurt even claims to prevent the common cold. In the past year or so, the European Food Safety Authority has reviewed 180 health claims for probiotic foods. It struck all of them down due to a lack of evidence. We put these points to our biggest dairy company, Fonterra. They tell us that clinical trials have shown that certain probiotic strains developed by Fonterra provide benefits including enhanced digestive health and improved colonic transit time when consumed daily in sufficient numbers as part of a balanced diet. There's also a practical problem. The probiotic bugs can die on the supermarket shelves or in your stomach acid. So if probiotics are to have any chance of working as claimed, the higher the dose, the better.
There's no worldwide standard, but I think industry would consider in the billions of probiotic bacteria per dose.
But even a billion probiotic bugs would have a hard time balancing the 20 trillion living in your gut.
I don't think we've found the elixir of life, but it is interesting to keep an open mind on probiotics.
So given that the more bacteria the better with probiotics, we sent 8 samples off to the lab for testing. Freshly made EasyYo had the highest count at 430 million bugs per gram, followed by Hansel's, Biofarm and Yoghurt. A 100-gram serving of all our yogurts would contain the suggested minimum dose of 1 billion bacteria. But when we retested our samples after 3 weeks, while most still reached the billion per serving, all bacteria had dropped off dramatically. So if you're a fan of probiotics, our results suggest your best bet is to make your own yoghurt and eat it fresh. Sachets are available at the supermarket and they work out a little cheaper too, at around 2/3 the price of store-bought yoghurt. All dairy products are a good source of calcium and kids especially need a lot of calcium for their rapidly growing bones. But many Kiwi kids are getting nowhere near enough, especially in their early teens, when almost 1/3 are not meeting their daily needs. But is it fact or fiction that yoghurt would be a healthier way than dairy food to get some calcium into them? The average dairy food has as much calcium as the leading strawberry yoghurt, but they have less sugar and fewer kilojoules, so yoghurt really isn't any better. Nevertheless, many parents are suspicious of dairy food. I mean, it doesn't even have a proper name. Is there anything real in it at all? I'm on my way to Fonterra to find out. Right, Estee, enlighten me. What exactly is dairy food? Is it yogurt?
It's not yogurt in the sense that it is not cultured in any way.
It turns out dairy food is 86% skim milk with a dash of cream to bring it up to 1% total fat. Next, white sugar is added as a syrup for easy mixing. Recently, Fonterra has reduced the added sugar in its dairy food by 25%. So how have they done it?
We supplement some of the sucrose with fructose.
And why is that better?
So it's 73% sweeter, which means we can add less of it to get that
lovely
same
sweet taste
level
that the kids love. Next, extra calcium is added, which is how they get 1/4 of your children's needs into one bottle. And it's good to see real cocoa going in. And that's obviously what makes it wicked chocolate.
It is, because it's nice chocolatey flavour.
Brilliant. Now we're down to numbered additives. This is where it starts to get a little bit complicated for me, Esther, because it's got things like colour 150D, emulsifier 450, vegetable gum 407. What are these things?
Yes.
It sounds terrible.
No, it's not. Colour 150D is essentially just caramel.
Okay.
That's carrageenan. That basically just imparts a nice creamy mouthfeel. So that's a starch, which is essentially just cornstarch, which you use to thicken up your gravy at home. It serves exactly the same purpose in here.
And finally, there's added flavours. I bet you don't want to tell me what those flavours are, because you don't have to, do you? I mean, as a manufacturer, you just have to list flavour on the back.
Exactly.
As a parent, flavours and colours would be the most important thing for me that I would worry about, so reassure me.
You can rest assured there's nothing sinister or bad about any of the flavours that are used in calcium dairy food. They're not artificial whatsoever.
Then the whole witch's brew is homogenised, heated to set the starch and chilled. Basically, dairy food is cold custard.
Good.
Exactly like I bought one. But to find out if it's any good, I decided to consult one more panel of experts. Meet Room 17 of Oratia Primary. They're going to help us out with a little experiment. All they have to do is correctly identify 3 popular flavours of dairy food. Here we have cola, caramel and strawberry flavoured dairy food. But without packaging and colour, can our tasters identify the flavours? Let's start with the caramel.
Oh, chocoholic, that's definitely chocolate. Caramel. Caramel. That one tastes like strawberry.
Not bad, almost 60% got it right. Now let's see how they get on with strawberry.
Banana. Orange. Strawberry.
Tastes a bit like banana and lemon put together.
Only 42% recognised one of the most classic flavours. And now for the hard one. How many kids know cola when they taste it?
Tastes a bit like orange.
Chocolate. Coca-Cola in a tub. Who did that?
I'm not sure if it's chocolate or vanilla. It might even be passion fruit, I'm not sure.
Better stay in school, kids. That's a 21% pass rate. Or could it be that dairy companies need to lift their game a little on flavour? Because without clues from the colour and the packaging, kids struggle to tell strawberry from banana and cola from passion fruit. But at least the flavours aren't artificial and there's less sugar in dairy food than yoghurt. When it comes to yoghurt, if we're not active and burning it off like these guys, then we should be looking for a low-fat yoghurt with not too much sugar. There's not much evidence that probiotics do anything for your digestive balance. But yoghurt is a great source of protein and calcium for healthy bones. Do you know where the sick bay is?
Yeah, sure, I'll take that.
Thanks.